I've been driving for Uber full-time since I lost my office job in late 2019. It started as a side hustle, but once I realized how much money could be made late at night, I leaned into it. Drunk passengers, loud groups of college kids, tired service workers heading home from their shifts. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills. Most nights blurred together into a haze of neon lights and slurred conversations. But there are a few rides that carve themselves into my memory so deeply that even now, years later, I get chills thinking about them. This one happened in the summer of 2021. It was around 2 a.m. on a Saturday night. Usually at that time the city is buzzing, but for some reason the streets were unusually empty. I remember thinking how weird it was that downtown felt so quiet when just an hour earlier I had dropped off a car full of college kids who wouldn't stop singing at the top of their lungs. The quiet almost felt unnatural, like the whole city had suddenly gone to sleep. I was parked on the edge of downtown, scrolling through my phone and waiting for the next request, when it popped up. Evan. The pickup location was a gas station lot just outside the city. It wasn't totally unusual. Sometimes people wanted rides home from there after grabbing drinks or smokes. I accepted and drove over, expecting to see someone leaning against the store or maybe waiting under the awning. When I got there, though, the lot looked deserted. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, illuminating a couple of cars, but no one was standing around. I double-checked the pin and it was definitely the right place. Just as I was about to call, I saw movement at the edge of the lot near the tree line. A man stepped out from the shadows and walked toward my car. He wore a dark hoodie pulled up over his head, jeans, and beat-up sneakers. His walk was slow, deliberate, like he wasn't in a rush. I rolled down the window a crack and called out, "Evan?" He nodded once and slid into the back seat without saying a word. I gave my usual greeting, asking if he had a good night. Nothing. He didn't smell like alcohol, and his eyes weren't glassy, so I didn't think he was drunk. Some people just don't like small talk, so I shrugged it off and started the ride. His destination was on the opposite side of town, about 25 minutes away, in a neighborhood I didn't know well. It was one of those semi-rural areas where houses sat far apart and the streetlights got fewer and farther between the deeper you drove. The first 5 minutes passed in silence. I glanced in the rear view a couple of times, but he just sat there with his hood up, staring down at his lap. Then I noticed the glow. His phone flashlight was on, aimed straight up from his hand. It wasn't bright enough to flood the car, but it lit his face in this eerie half-shadow that made him look almost hollow. "Everything okay back there?" I asked, trying to keep it light. "Yeah," he mumbled, without looking up. Then he switched the flashlight off. The rest of the ride was dead silent. No music, no conversation, just the sound of the engine and my own heartbeat. The longer we drove, the heavier the tension got. I don't know how to describe it exactly, but it felt like sitting next to someone who was about to tell you terrible news and just hadn't found the words yet. Finally, we pulled into the neighborhood. The GPS led us down a narrow road lined with thick trees, no lights, no cars, just darkness pressing in from all sides. I slowed down as we approached the address. It was an old farmhouse sitting far back from the road, half hidden by overgrown shrubs. The windows were dark. No porch light. No sign of life at all. I put the car in park and glanced back. "Is this the place?" He didn't answer. He just sat there, staring out the window at the house. "Hey, is this it?" I asked again, louder this time. Finally, he nodded slowly. "All right," I said, forcing cheer into my voice. "Have a good night." But he didn't move. He just stayed sitting there. I cleared my throat. "You good?" After a long pause, he finally opened the door and stepped out. But he didn't close it. He just stood there, facing the house, the open door hanging wide. I waited, thinking maybe he was nervous about going in. 30 seconds passed, a full minute. I was just about to ask if he needed help when he suddenly turned back toward me. His face was pale, his eyes wide, and in the quietest, most desperate voice I've ever heard, he said, "I need to go back." I blinked. "Back where?" "Where you picked me up." I hesitated. "That's not how it works, man. You'll need to request another ride." He just stared at me, then, more urgently, "Please. I need to go back." I shook my head. "You've got to do it through the app." That's when he said it. "I can't. They're not gone yet." My stomach dropped. I tried to keep my voice steady. "Who's not gone?" He didn't answer. He just stood there, breathing hard, eyes darting between me and the house. "Look," I said, my voice firmer this time. "I can't start another ride unless you request it. That's how it works." He stared at me for another few seconds, then slowly stepped back and closed the door. Without another word, he walked toward the house. He didn't knock. He didn't turn on a light. He just stood on the porch, still as a statue. Every instinct screamed at me to drive, so I did. I pulled out fast, heart hammering, and didn't slow down until I turned the corner. I ended the trip in the app right away, hands shaking. My plan was to head back downtown, maybe grab some water, calm down. A few minutes later, I pulled into a 24-hour gas station to use the bathroom. I parked at the side, locked the doors, and went inside. I wasn't gone longer than 4 minutes. When I came back out, my heart nearly stopped. Evan was sitting in the back seat. Same hoodie, same blank expression. Just sitting there like he'd never left. I froze. I was positive I had locked the car. My keys were still in my pocket. There was no broken glass, no signs of forced entry. Just him sitting there. I opened the driver's side door slowly, keeping my eyes on him in the mirror as I slid back behind the wheel. My voice shook when I asked, "How did you get back in?" He leaned forward slightly, his breath audible, and said, "Take me back." I reached for my phone. "I'm calling the cops." That's when he leaned in closer, so close I could feel the air shift, and whispered, "They're still in the house." Something about the way he said it froze me to my core. My hand hovered over my phone, but I couldn't bring myself to dial. Against all reason, I started the car and pulled onto the road. The whole drive back, he sat in silence except for these occasional whispers. "They won't leave. They're waiting. You can't let them in." His voice was hollow, flat, like he was talking to himself as much as to me. When we reached the farmhouse again, nothing had changed. No lights, no movement. Just that looming shadow of a house. He got out without a word and walked back to the porch. This time, though, as he reached the steps, I noticed something in the passenger side mirror, a second figure. Sitting next to him in the back seat, I hadn't heard a door open. I hadn't seen anyone get in. But for the briefest moment, I saw it reflected in the mirror something pale, sitting too close to where he had been. I didn't wait. I hit the gas and drove off, not stopping until I was under the glare of a streetlight 3 blocks away. I sat there, trembling, making absolutely sure every door was locked. When I finally calmed down enough to check the app, the trip was gone. Not just ended, completely erased. No record of a passenger named Evan, no trip to that address. It was like it had never happened. I still drive Uber sometimes, though never as late as I used to. And every time I glance at my rearview mirror and see the empty back seat, I swear I catch a glimpse just for a second of someone sitting there. And I pray it's only my imagination. I was 24 at the time, and for the most part, I lived a quiet, ordinary life. I had just graduated college and had moved to Chicago for my first real job. It wasn't glamorous by any means, but it paid the bills, and most importantly, it gave me enough independence to finally live on my own. Most nights I got home late and barely had the energy to cook. I'd depended way too much on Uber Eats and ride-sharing apps. My mom used to warn me about that. She'd send me articles about kidnappings, scams, or stories of fake drivers pretending to be Uber, but I'd always brush them off. "That stuff doesn't really happen in real life," I'd tell her. "At least not to me." I guess I was wrong. It was a Thursday night, sometime in early October. I had stayed late at work to finish a project, so it was close to 10:30 by the time I left the office. The streets downtown were buzzing with nightlife bars spilling out with people, Ubers pulling up, cabs honking, but I just wanted to go home. I opened the app and requested a ride. The app showed my driver, a man named Daniel in a black Toyota Camry. His profile picture looked normal enough, mid-30s. Clean-shaven, nothing out of the ordinary. Estimated arrival time, 4 minutes. I stood outside near the office entrance, scrolling through my phone to kill time. Sure enough, within a few minutes, a black Camry pulled up to the curb. It didn't look suspicious. No tinted windows, no dents, nothing out of the ordinary. The driver rolled down the window slightly, looked in my direction, and nodded. "Uber for Chris?" I asked, stepping closer. The man didn't say anything at first, just gave a quick nod and unlocked the doors. My first thought should have been, weird, he didn't confirm my name back. But I was tired, not thinking too hard. I just got in. The car smelled faintly of smoke mixed with some kind of cheap cologne. I remember shifting uncomfortably in the back seat, setting my backpack down beside me. The man didn't greet me, didn't say, "Hey, how's your night?" Nothing. He just started driving. At first I didn't think much of it. Some drivers were chatty, others weren't. No big deal. But as we pulled away from the busy part of downtown, I noticed something odd. He didn't open the Uber app on his phone. The phone mounted on the dash was dark, no GPS, no map. You've got the address, right?" I asked after a minute. He didn't answer. His hand stayed gripped on the wheel, eyes fixed on the road. I repeated myself a little louder. "Hey, did you get the address I put in?" This time he glanced at me in the rearview mirror. His eyes lingered a little too long before he looked back at the road. "Yeah, I know where I'm going," he muttered. His voice was low, almost like gravel. Something about the way he said it made my stomach twist. At first I tried to calm myself down. Maybe he's just not a talkative guy. Maybe he memorized the route. But as the city lights faded behind us and the streets grew emptier, that uneasy feeling only got stronger. I pulled out my phone and opened the Uber app. My heart nearly stopped when I saw the screen. It still said, "Your driver is arriving, not on the trip, not in progress. Just arriving." That's when it hit me. This wasn't my Uber. I froze. My mouth went dry, my palms sweaty. I glanced at the driver again in the mirror. He wasn't looking at me now. His eyes were fixed dead ahead, expressionless, almost robotic. I didn't want him to know I had caught on, so I tried to act normal. My heart was pounding in my ears, but I forced myself to speak as calmly as I could. "Hey, actually, I just remembered I left something at the office. Can you drop me back there? I'll request a ride after." For the first time since I got in, he smiled. But it wasn't a normal smile. It was this slow, stretched, unsettling grin that made my skin crawl. Without looking at me, he said, "No. We're almost there." Almost where? Every instinct in my body screamed at me to get out of that car. My fingers clenched around the handle of my backpack and I began running through scenarios in my head. Could I jump out while the car was moving? Could I grab the wheel, force him to stop? But before I could act, my phone buzzed. It was a message notification from Daniel, my actual Uber driver. "Hey, I'm outside the pickup spot. Where are you?" My stomach dropped. I looked at the fake driver's phone on the dash again. It was dark. No Uber app, no GPS, just black. I had to make a move. I quickly typed back to my real driver I got in the wrong car. "Please call 911. Then I shoved the phone in my pocket, praying the fake driver didn't notice. We were now on some side street I didn't recognize, buildings spaced farther apart, streetlights dimmer. My chest felt like it was caving in. I reached into my backpack and quietly pulled out the small pocket knife I carried. I kept it hidden in my palm, blade folded in, just in case. Finally, I leaned forward and said firmly, "Stop the car, let me out." The man didn't respond. "Stop the car," I said louder, trying to sound braver than I felt. My heart was racing so fast I thought I'd pass out. That's when he finally looked at me in the mirror again. His eyes were cold, emotionless. He slowed the car down, not to stop, but just enough to lean slightly over his shoulder. "You shouldn't have done that," he muttered. And then, without warning, he slammed his foot on the gas. The sudden jolt threw me back against the seat. The engine roared as he sped through the empty street, the buildings blurring by. Panic surged through me. I gripped the knife tighter, my breath coming in short, sharp gasps. I didn't think, I just acted. I lunged forward and pressed the blade against his shoulder, shouting, "Stop the car right now!" The driver swerved violently, the tires screeching as we nearly clipped the curb. For a second, I thought we were going to crash. He cursed, jerking the wheel back. "You little shit!" He barked, his voice guttural, furious. I dug the knife harder against his shoulder, my hand shaking uncontrollably. "I swear to God, pull over or I'll..." Before I could finish, he suddenly jerked the wheel to the right and slammed the brakes. The car skidded to a halt near an abandoned lot. My heart was in my throat. This was it. But instead of attacking me, he reached over, unlocked the doors, and hissed, Get the fuck out. I didn't waste a second. I threw the door open, stumbled onto the pavement, nearly twisting my ankle, and sprinted without looking back. My chest burned as I ran, my legs screaming in pain, but I didn't stop until I saw headlights to squad cars pulling onto the street. The cops must have gotten my real Uber driver's call. I waved frantically, half sobbing, half screaming, and they rushed toward me. I tried to explain what happened, my words tumbling out in broken, panicked sentences. By the time the officers turned to look for the Camry, it was gone. That was 2 years ago. To this day, they never caught him. Sometimes I still lie awake at night replaying that smile he gave me, the way he said, "We're almost there." I'll never know where he planned to take me or what would have happened if I hadn't fought back. But I do know one thing. I'll never step into a rideshare again without triple-checking the driver, the car, the license plate, everything. Because that night I learned the hard way that sometimes the scariest monsters don't hide under your bed or in the shadows. Sometimes they pull up right in front of you, pretending to give you a ride home,